When you want to be invested or engaged in something as difficult and complex and emotionally fraught as politics are, your mental state, your mental health, and the mental health of those around you. Maybe there are people that you love having dialogues with, but they're going through a tough time. And maybe that's not the best time to be having conversations about political disagreements. It's time to just let that go, let sleeping dogs lie. So, something I kind of wanted to start off with this, and but we had other good subjects and conversations to discuss. So I'm guessing, because we tend to post, we try to post these in order in which they were released. This is probably going to end up coming out the third week after the first of the year. But it's also, that's a time of year when things start to settle down, the parties stop, and we're just left with the grayness of winter. So maybe this is perfect timing for it. Neither of us are mental health professionals. But I can't speak for you, Luella. But I myself, I have had friends and loved ones in my life who struggle with mental health.
Same.
And I have two friends at work for differing reasons who have had some mental health challenges. One recently and one earlier this year. And the reason Politics Channel is even inclined to do a little thing about mental health is because of the state of our politics and the tone of conversation. Now, we in prior videos have really discussed how there is a financial incentive for social media to constantly push crap into our feeds that damages our mental health. And they do this because it's profitable for them.
Right. Gets engagement, and that gets eyeballs, which gets ad revenue,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
And I'm here to say it, and I'm not going to edit it or censor it. Fuck their profit margin. If you make money off the mental distress of human beings, if it's profitable for your business model to sow dissent and division and toxicity into a nation's dialogue, fuck your profit margin.
Yeah. Then your business model sucks.
Yeah. But it is what it is, right? This is the world that we are currently living in. And I really think that it is important, and I will say on the positive side, I have heard more open discussion about mental health and self-care and these kinds of things in the last 5 or 10 years than I ever have in this country before. And I think that is a good and a healthy thing. I can speak from the perspective of a man. Definitely be interested in hearing, the take from a woman on this. I can't speak to that because I am a beardy dude who wears high vis and works with heavy equipment in high stress, dangerous situations for a living. And I can only speak to what I know as a dude, that, we, even before social media and a broken civic dialogue came along, we as men have been taught our whole lives that vulnerability, sensitivity, compassion, care for both ourselves and others, those things are gay, bro, right? that is the way we have been raised. And that's what we learn from, in some cases from our fathers and from the mentors that we've had in our lives. And, that is why the I'm worried about YouTube flagging us. The self-ending. There's an S word, right?
Mhm.
That prematurely ending your own existence. The successful rates of that amongst men are way higher than they are amongst any other group, and those numbers have been ticking upward. We're talking men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s calling it quits. And I believe that is largely due to both how difficult aspects of life are today, as well as larger economic and social changes. But it is not helped by this male tendency to just man up and knuckle through it and bury it. And something that I have had cause to tell a couple of my friends recently is that, trauma is a big word. Trauma can be everything from stubbing your toe to enduring abuse and experiencing things no human being should have to experience. There's a wide spectrum. But I am of the mind that, traumatic experiences don't just go away. You either process them, and a lot of times, in order to successfully process something, you're going to need outside help, be that a spiritual advisor, be that counseling, a mental health professional. But if you don't process it, okay, that trauma and that pain of that experience, the energy from that, it just lives within you. And as dudes, we're really good at taking those and putting them in a little box and hiding it away. And then the next trauma comes along, and we take it and we put it in a little box and we lock it up and we put it away. And we do this and we do this and we do this. And then something that in the grand scheme of things isn't that big that comes along, and that dam opens. And that's where you see these guys having these road rage incidents or snapping, okay?
Right.
And
People that have a threshold, you can only
yeah,
take so much,
and they hit that limit, and I know that women have different cultural burdens or expectations that are foisted upon them, and things that are viewed as acceptable or not acceptable, and things that they have to endure, right,
Mhm.
to just get by. And every one of these things has an impact on the baseline of our mental health. And then we add to that this profit-driven social media scroll. And if you're somebody who wants to engage in political content, and this is where I'm kind of connecting the dots between mental health and what we're doing, is I would encourage anybody out there who is paying attention to these things, who is emotionally invested in the well-being of the country or your community, to take this as your sign to do a self-check. We took that little break, and a part of the reason, there were a number of reasons why we took that break, but a part of the reason we took that break is that I am very conscious about what content I consume and to what degree I consume it. And because we're doing this project, I have increased the amount of political content that I take in. And even as somebody who is very opposed to the tribal warfare or the cultural BS, I could tell that my baseline, my anxiety, my stress was ticking upwards. And I had started to notice it, that my fuse was a little bit shorter, my temper was a little bit closer at hand. And because I am somebody who has gone through some things because of my personal temper, that I tend to be very aware of where my emotional state is at. And so I said, we're going to take a break because I need to go back to touching some grass and listening to some wind chimes and remembering to breathe and relax a little bit. And instead of focusing on this little thing that really upsets me, take a breath and look at everything. Because when you look at everything, this is a problematic statement, but when you look at everything, it's not that bad. You are still alive. There are still people that love you. You've got your health. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. It is good to do a check-in and remind yourself of the blessings that you have within your life and kind of ground yourself in that. But I think it's kind of important if we as a people are going to be engaged in political dialogue or becoming informed on these subjects, that it's going to expose us to a lot of stuff that can be very damaging to our mental health.
It's toxic. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Or it leads you to a place where, like, what do I do with this? As I said in that other one, like,
Hopelessness. Yeah.
yeah, like it just tells you everything that's wrong, but it doesn't give you any pathway to making things better, which is one of the reasons why here in season 2, we really want to kind of change gears and focus on what we as individuals can do to maybe help. And no, we can't change the world. What's the Lord's Prayer? Give me the
No, that's the Serenity Prayer.
the Serenity
Yeah.
Prayer. Give me the strength to fight. How does it go?
It's, what is it? The patience, the serenity, of course.
Yeah.
Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Right. And so, I mean, that is just the bee's knees, and it's critical. And so, can we change who currently sits behind the Resolute desk? Can we change, as an individual? Now, I'm talking about as individuals. Can we change, who holds the gavel in the House of the Senate? No. Can we change the policy that's just been signed into law? No, we can't. We can't. Not as an individual. And so that is where one has to know when to let certain things go and channel the energy that would inspire you into planting a garden, finding a way to laugh, breaking bread with somebody, talking to people who can help you work through these things.
Yeah, and building community, like where you live, not everything has to be online.
Yeah.
Like, you can actually go talk to your neighbors, or you can, if you don't have a regular meeting with your community members or with your representative in Congress, maybe you can start one. Maybe you can contract your congressperson's office and go, hey.
If you like your congressperson,
well,
right?
even if you hate them, it's their job to listen to you,
Right.
Right? And you go, hey, could you like once a month do a breakfast with your constituents where we can meet you somewhere and actually talk about stuff? That's supposed to be their job.
That's how it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like these, there are things that you can't do anything about. And like even that, like, some people, their lives are so full, they don't have time for that, but other people, they do have the time for that. The whole idea here is that, like, we want you all to be as engaged as you are able to be. And a part of what determines what you're able to do is your time, your other obligations in life, but also don't lose sight in all of that whole self-care thing, your mental health state, because the more broken our mental health is, the more diminished our capacity to get good works done elsewhere.
And the more easily people can manipulate us.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, if you're exhausted and you're totally defeated by all the negativity online, it's so easy for people to take advantage of you. Yep. Or the energy that you have to expend if you're in that state to protect yourself from people's manipulation is so much, you're just completely depleted after that. And it doesn't have to be that way. But I also think that right now, if you, like, let's say you're working 2 jobs and your family is just totally strapped and there's no way you have time to like go to breakfast with your congressperson. You must know someone, or if you don't know someone yet, who's like retired, who's your neighbor, who does have time to do that and can represent your interests. Like, talk to them, get on the phone or go knock on their door and be like, hey, we had this idea and like, we don't have time to go after this, but do you share any of our concerns? Maybe you could go meet with our congressperson and tell them about XYZ problem. I mean, we're not all alone fighting these
Right.
battles.
Yep. And there's, I don't know if it's cringe. It's been a really, really long time since I've used it, but there's also, I'm sure there was a website that used to be out there, and it probably still is, called Meetup.
I think it is still out there.
And there's a lot of like and sort of like, I'm going to the mental health, like, yes, on one side, the reason that I'm even bringing up mental health is that I want us all to, one, be aware of our mental state and how much anxiety we are or are not feeling, to be aware of when we are nearing those limits or those breaking points, and know that it is okay to take a step back. I myself have not looked at anything political in the last like 2 weeks, and it's been wonderful. Okay, it's great.
Liberating.
Really helps your mood out, right?
Yeah.
So that's on one side. It's all about preserving your energy or recharging your batteries, so that you then have the capacity and the energy, without overextending yourself, to then engage in the ways that like Lou is suggesting, with regards to like, engaging in some way with your community or your political system. But then on the other side, there's no doubt that, the research has shown that having community or people or social activities to be involved with is a net positive for your mental health. And so that's where something like, the meetup comes in. Like, look in your local area and see if there's a meetup group for, it doesn't even necessarily have to be political, because you can get together with somebody about shared interests: crocheting, quilting, car repair, coffee, philosophy, whatever the hell it is, hunting, fishing. Start to expand your network of connections, and you will find, inevitably, in America in particular, that at least some of the people in that group are going to have political views. And are they going to be exactly aligned with you? No. Perfect. Beautiful. You can put some of this other stuff into practice and try and have good conversation, forge a friendship and shared respect with somebody who doesn't come from the echo chamber that you come from, because echo chambers are the enemy of good dialogue, because you spend your time surrounded by people who are telling you that your terrible idea is wonderful. And everybody pats each other in the back until you leave that echo chamber, and then you confront a reality that says, well, that wonderful idea would never work because X, Y, or Z. But so I guess it's the kind of what we're saying here is twofold. One, a little PSA thing, like, if you find that you're sort of like at your wit's end there, like, seek out counseling or support or some sort of mental health assistance, because we have all experienced some version or degree of trauma in our lives. Everybody. Nobody's had a perfect life, ever. And it's important that we all be aware of how much of that is still with us, whether or not we've processed it, whether or not we've come out on the other side stronger and more resilient and wiser. And when you want to be invested or engaged in something as difficult and complex and emotionally fraught as politics are, your mental state, your mental health, and the mental health of those around you. Maybe there are people that you love having dialogues with, but they're going through a tough time. And maybe that's not the best time to be having conversations about political disagreements. It's time to just let that go, let sleeping dogs lie, and connect with each other.
Fuses are short.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just going to go south.
And connect with each other on a more human, empathetic level. And I know we'll just call this my hippie rant, because it's all about like just taking care of one another and taking care of yourselves, so that you have the energy and the capacity for us to engage in the shit that matters, that affects all of us.
Is that a hippie rant, really?
I'll make fun of it and call it a hippie rant.
All right.
I say when I'm working around my calloused, blue collar buddies, they say, okay, hippie, but they know where it's coming from. It's coming from a place of of wanting resilience and strength and compassion and love and support, both for as well as from my brothers out there in the high vis army. It's a subject that you had wanted me to get into at one point, and it is something I guess I'll just drop this Easter egg here that'll commit me to it. But what is it to be a man, right?
Mm.
Versus what could it be? And it is something, the short version of it is that, some people think being a man is being aggressive and being tough and, just knuckling through whatever adversity comes your way. And there are aspects of that I think are valid and true. But, if somebody's looking for a different example of what it is to be a man, my opinion, and I feel this very strongly, is that the best version of man is a protector, is somebody who feels compelled to speak on behalf or even put themselves in harm's way to defend those who cannot defend themselves. That to me is real strength. Real strength isn't standing around with your arms crossed laughing at the disabled person. Real strength is facing that circle of dudes and saying, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're better than that. And then going and helping that person who's disabled or seeing if they need something. That you've got these Andrew Tates and these cringe bros online that think being a real man is how long your body count is, or viewing women as objects for you to subjugate. Being a real man is a loving and loyal and compassionate father, and raising healthy, well-adjusted citizens who contribute well to society. That's a man. Because if that's not what a man is, we would not have built civilizations that create art and technological innovation and are capable of doing all the things we do. If it was just a bunch of dudes trying to see who was the strongest to beat the most down, we'd still be living in some barbarous, older version of the world where there wasn't running water and electricity and spaceships and technology and MRI machines and cancer treatments. It would just be who's got the biggest club. That's what it is. So that's an aspect of mental health is the roles that men are told that they're supposed to be in, that I frankly think is absolute bullshit.
Yeah, we could go on to a whole video.
Yeah, we try to keep these short.
Yeah.
This is a subject we will come back to. The truck driver, former logging industry guy, former trash man, guy who drives race cars for funsies and builds shit, will talk about sensitivity and love and compassion and defense of the weak. So, yeah. But, really just to close it out, and I'm sorry, Llewellyn, if you've got anything to say about the specific sort of constraints or issues that women have to struggle with regards to mental health, just so that,
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, women face a different and also troubling reality right now, which is, we've been boxed into this corner where, I mean, women were taught from time immemorial, but for sure since the 70s, that we're supposed to look like sex objects, but be, we're only really valued for the way that we look in the main, right? Women are.
We're talking about a big picture media, like commercials, movies.
First and foremost, not in personal relationships.
Which, of course, that stuff trickles down into daily life and personal interactions, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. women have been trained to judge each other that way. So like originally it was just like this idea that you had to please the man. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with pleasing a man if that man also makes an effort to please you.
Right. It's two-way
Right?
street. Right.
Yes, yes. So, but it can't be all one way. And so, women have been increasingly objectified and treated as less than fully human in the last decade or two.
And you started to go in a direction, and so it's like traditionally being again, this is like in the cartoon version of reality that then trickles down into the way people grow up, but like sex objects, but then we're expected to be saints or
Yes.
like so.
Like, how can you thread that needle?
Yeah.
It's
Like
impossible.
squeezed in between
Yeah.
those two sides.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, that girl's hot, and we all want to go and get her, but then when it comes time to marry, well, like, I don't want her, she's a slut. Like, what the hell? Like,
right.
yeah, no.
It's impossible to combine those two things in a way that is consistent with reality. I mean, they covered that really well in the Barbie movie. I'm just going to throw that out there. If you want to better understand the dilemma that women face in our modern society, watch the monologue from the Barbie movie and you'll get it. They did a great job with that. But getting back to like mental health and women right now, so we're, on the one hand, we are graduating with more college degrees than men now. And so women are over functioning in society. We wanted our independence, and to a certain degree we got at least some of that, but there was a heavy price to pay for that, because men got very confused about what their new role should be now that women have some independence. And women, in gaining that independence, their tolerance for being treated like shit went way down, right? Because they're like, I don't have to put up with this shit. I can make my own money. And so now, so we've got all that social pressure in terms of how we relate to men, but also we're the water carriers. We're the emotional water carriers for how society functions, because when men don't care about what women think anymore, they behave like Mo was saying a few minutes ago, which is they just want to hold the biggest club and beat each other down, or here, hold my beer, and do crazy stuff and impress themselves and each other. And there's no long-term thinking of like, how can we make the world a better place for all of us?
That kind of, there was some research that I saw that was really interesting. Okay, because you've got on the male side, you've got this. It's called the MGTOW movement. It's the men go their own way, and it has a spectrum. On one side, it's just woman haters. On the other side, it's men who have seen, like have been, maybe they married their high school sweetheart, and at some point she decided, I actually had a buddy who did this, they had a pretty good relationship as far as I knew. She decided she was bored with it and they got a divorce, and she spent all of her weekends at the clubs going forward.
Like
okay,
nightclubs, dancing.
Yeah, and he basically lost his house and half of all of his possessions. And so there, on the other end, there are these guys who've just been hurt and are like, I'm just going to focus on my peace and my joy. So, you've got this element on the male side of going like, we don't need them anymore, or the more cringe side is like, the only thing I need them for is sex. And then on the female side, you definitely have, there's an element of women who are like, I don't need no man and all this kind of stuff. But the research that I saw was studying, and they focused on workplaces. And they looked at workplaces that were like almost entirely female. They looked at workplaces that were almost entirely male. And they looked at mixed workplaces. And they found that in the female exclusive workplaces that there was a lot of clickiness and cattiness, and there was a certain level of drama that happened. And in the exclusively male workplaces, it became increasingly like sort of toxic and aggressive, and its own version of clique, and it's like this faction against that faction, and whereas, but then when they looked at work environments, and it only had to have, let's say you've got a workplace of 20 people, you only needed 2 or 3 females to be present. Or in a place that was like a majority female, you only needed 2 or 3 men to be present. And a large portion of the negative aspects of an exclusively female environment or an exclusively male environment went away.
That's really
Which
interesting.
sort of reinforces this idea that, like, you can argue about whether or not the genders need each other, but when you mix the genders, whether that's in a relationship or a
Beneficial.
workspace, that they all benefit by that we like any human beings, we can bring out the worst in each other, but the average is in a relatively healthy environment, all things being equal, we tend to bring the best out in one another.
Or at least mitigate the negative influences. Yeah.
And I like say, we can quibble with the examples of the analogy that I'm going to use because I'm just trying to go off the cuff here. But the presence of women give men permission or encouragement to be more compassionate and to be more protective and caring. Okay, whereas men potentially can give women permission to be a little more bold and independent, and encourage them to cultivate their own capabilities with less self-doubt. Like, I don't know if those examples are the most accurate or not, but like, because I know, like, in the industry that I work in, it is a male-dominated industry, and you do get a handful of women that come into that industry. And something that I've seen, you have good men and bad men in that industry, and the bad men will, a woman shouldn't be here, a woman shouldn't be doing this. But those of us who would like to think that we're good men are the ones that will take the time to show these ladies that they can do this thing. They can do the same job that the dudes are doing, and teach them the tricks and sort of take them under their wing and mentor them. And the end result is they go, oh, I can back a 53-foot trailer blindside into a hole without somebody spotting for me, now that this dude took the time to view me as an equal in our work and show me those tricks.
Yeah, and to what you're saying just now about this idea of good men and bad men, like, I want to make sure to specify that people are not inherently good or bad. It's the behaviors that they choose to engage in that put them in a situation where they're acting as good men or bad men, or good women and bad women.
Irrespective of gender, irrespective of race, irrespective of economic background, every one of us have our better angels and our lesser angels. And you get to choose every day, in every moment, which of those angels you're going to follow. And sometimes the better angels are the more difficult ones to follow. It requires you to put more of yourself out there.
Right.
But that's where it comes down
to payoff is bigger.
Character. Yes. And just to close it out and bring it back, it also comes back to your mental health and your state of being.
Exactly.
If you are angry, if you are stressed out, if you have had your emotional buttons pushed for 3 hours straight on social media, it is a lot harder to follow your better angels. So that's going to kind of work. We didn't plan it this way, but that's kind of work. We're going to close this one out with the fact that, we as citizens have our own unique challenges when it comes to maintaining and preserving our mental health. We as different genders or different communities have our own unique health challenges when it comes to mental health. And our call and our hope for anybody watching this is that we recognize that not only do you yourself have your own self-checking that you should do, and if you feel the need, like, we're coming into a time, and I think this is a wonderful thing, when the stigma around mental health struggles is slowly but surely going away, and there are resources out there and community is out there to help. And we don't just do this for the betterment of our friends, of our family, of our local communities. We do this for the betterment of our nation, and it should be viewed as a necessity to take care of ourselves so that we are armed and prepared and ready for the fights that we need to fight if we want to make this world and our country and our communities and our families a better place. Yeah, so take that. Hey everybody, I want to thank you for watching the video. Please keep in mind that all of these videos are part of a much longer conversation. Recommendation would be to kind of start at the beginning so that you are all up to speed, because we'll say some crazy stuff, and if you don't have the context, you might lose that. But appreciate you guys watching. Please like, subscribe. Let's get this channel to grow so that we can build a positive community that can help heal America.
Yeah.
Love you all.